the perfect pairing of plant and pot, like this one, which I'm pretty happy with, brings together the best parts of art and horticulture. There's nothing quite like it for scratching that creative itch when it comes to collecting plants. As you can see, I've been hoarding artisanal pots over the last few months, and so today I'm going to choose a few of these pots and try and figure out what's the best plant to put in them. I'm no designer, but I reckon we can figure out some good combinations, so let's get stuck into it. Now, there's really no right or wrong when it comes to finding a pairing of plant and pot. It's all just down to your taste, and if it looks good, fantastic. But when you find that certain je ne sais quoi, as you can see in some of my favourites here, well, both the plant and the pot, the beauty of them is enhanced. I'm not so arrogant as to think that I'm going to create anything quite so artistic as that today, but I'm going to give it my best crack. Far be it from me to tell you some rules about how to pair these things together, but there are a few things that I think are worth considering before you proceed. Colour, you're going to want to make sure the pot and the plant complement each other. And similarly, texture. Don't get too messy with texture, I reckon. Size and shape of your plant and your pot should complement each other. You don't want your plant getting lost in a giant pot. And I suppose it's worth remembering these things are living. And so you don't want your plant being completely bursting out of an undersized pot, unless they like that. Of course, additional to all of that, you're going to think about your purpose of putting it into a pot. If you want to create a habitat style planter, like I've done with this very stressed out dormant Haworthia truncata, you're going to need space for rocks, topsoil, and also think about how your plant's going to react to whatever size you put it into. Now, I did buy a ludicrous number of pots over the summer. I've been hoarding them, can't wait to use them all. I'm only going to focus on three today, three very different ones for a bit of variety. And the first of those is this tall pot, beautifully textured with this lovely glaze around the top. It comes from Tate at Green Minded in the United States. I bought a bunch of pots off him and they're all absolutely stunning. I can't wait to put plants in them. Full disclosure, he did give me a bit of a discount to cover the exorbitant shipping costs to get them across the ocean in return for a shout out. The next pot I'm going to be looking at is this lower, squatter, darker textured thing. It comes from local Sydney potter Don Ricardo. It's an absolute stunner, and as you can see, it's very different to the last one. A bit more heavy, less delicate. It's going to suit a very different plant. And maybe I'm a masochist, but I bought this thing from Cactus Vision, full price, no discounts. It's an absolute stunning piece of art, but how the hell do you pair it with a plant? Or in this case, two plants. It's got two holes. It's beautifully sculptural, completely weird, and I have no idea how I'm going to figure out what's going to go in here, but I thrive on a challenge, and I hope you do too. So we're going to work through this problem together. So we'll start with the Don Ricardo pot. It's low, it's fairly flat, it's got a big wide gaping opening. It's very dark and textured. I think it is going to work better with a lower, more globose plant. And I've got a few plants as a bit of a short list that we can check out. Compare them and figure out which one's going to go best. You might disagree. First option, Euphorbia obesa with a bit of corking around the base just to add a bit of interesting texture. Now, putting it in there, I feel like at this stage it's a little bit small. Maybe it gets lost. In time, maybe it would be the perfect thing, but you never know. It might be the one. Going bigger, we've got this Echinocactus grusonii with the smaller spines. It certainly fits the bill in terms of size. That's a bit ludicrous. I can't really get a sense of how it looks in there, but fits the bill in terms of size. Does it fit it in texture? I'm not quite sure. The next possibility is this Echinocereus rigidissimus rubrispinus, which I grew from seed, and it's got three beautiful heads. I'm really quite liking the complementation of the the reddish colours and the reddish hues in the pot. Might be a little bit small, maybe it'll grow into the space, but I don't mind that at all. And then, maybe just to break the rules a little bit, this is a Hagioserius versicolor, cactus from South America, certainly not globose, but I don't mind how that kind of diagonal growth habit emerging out of the pot works. So that might be worth consideration as well. I'm going to meditate on this problem and we'll see what I come up with. So the next pot we're working with is the beautiful tall green-minded pot. A little bit lighter in colour, different in its texture, kind of more stony looking, and it's got this wonderfully delicate blue-white glaze around the pot rim. So really, I've gone looking for plants that have got a bit more vertical height and a little bit more glaucous, by which I mean plants that have got a bit of a whitish blue farina. That's that thick, powdery protective coating on them. So let's have a look at the three front runners. The first option is this beautiful Hoodia gordonii, South African plant. Grows into kind of a clumping columnar thing, and you can see it certainly hits the brief in terms of vertical height and that sort of glaucous greeny blue colour. At the moment, it might be a little bit skinny for the pot. Certainly if it was starting to clump up, I reckon it'd be a fantastic contender, and it will do that in time, especially when it's got a bit of space to send its roots out into this pot here. Anyway, let's see the next one. And we've got a cactus here, Azurioserius hertlingianus, and it really hits the brief in terms of that beautiful blue farina. These plants are defined by that blue protective coating. Over time it will just get bluer and bluer. Fantastic. It's a little bit shorter than the Hoodia and certainly shorter than the pot, but given a little bit more time to grow into the space, it could present a wonderful sort of specimen. Maybe doesn't quite hit the mark just yet. It'll also grow considerably bigger than this in time, and so I need to think, do I want to put it into a pot that's going to restrict its vertical growth? Maybe. Our third option certainly hits the brief, both in terms of its whiteness. This is a Euphorbia polygona variety nivea, sometimes called snowflake in cultivation, because it's just so white. How good is that? And in terms of vertical size, also pretty neatly symmetrical, not bad. All right, I'm going to meditate on these choices as well, and you'll see what I decide in just a moment. And then there is this, which personally I think it works beautifully, almost as an art piece in itself. And putting plants in it, I hope, isn't going to detract from that. Now, so stumped was I with what's going to fit well with this, that I took the question to Instagram and had all sorts of suggestions. Some people saying tall plant out of here and a plant kind of draping or flowing out of this hole. Others suggesting pairing plants, all sorts of things. And I've come out here and I've spent a really good deal of time just staring at my plants, which is always a fun thing to do anyway. And in the end, I think I solved it. But I don't want to spoil the surprise. And I hope it's going to work. I'm a little bit scared. I reckon this is the one. I'm going to pot it up now, show you the process and a few considerations as we go along, and I'll share with you what I chose for the other two pots. Yikes. Trying to get the polygona out of its old terracotta pot. Left half the root mass in there. Well, good thing these are hardy plants. Guess I'm going to need to do a little bit more backfilling. But when it's in, I reckon that's going to look pretty sweet. All right, I'm going to backfill this pot. I'm going to look at placement, top dressing, and all the rest of it. I think that's going to look pretty sweet. All right, we're going to backfill this pot, get the plant in there, and then we'll talk a bit about top dressing. Pot like this, you've got a nice big drainage hole. You're going to want to put a bit of mesh or something over it, just so you don't lose all your potting medium. Okay, moment of truth, how does she look? Bit wobbly, fix that up in a sec. I reckon that's the perfect plant for that pot. Magic. All right, get some dirt around those roots now, and we're going to be looking sweet as. Now, because I lost half the root mass, unfortunately I might need to stake this plant or something to stop it from falling over. I don't know, might be lucky. Oh no, she looks pretty good, not too wobbly, and in time as it puts out a few more roots and grows, it'll look even better. And what I reckon will look particularly cool, these things start to pup and offset from the base. So if it fills in a bit of that space around the bottom of the plant with pups in the coming years, I reckon this is going to be an absolute stunning little combination, more so than it already is. All right, top dressing time. We want to make this thing look chef's kiss. When it comes to top dressing, I'm a huge fan of a DIY approach. I like to collect rocks just wherever I go, and when you chuck them through a mortar and pestle, beat the ever-loving shit out of them, you can create pretty nice top dressing. Trying to find something that matches this plant and this pot. I'm looking for something that's kind of light coloured, a bit on the coolish side. I tried something before, putting a bit of sandstone through it, had a bit of pinkish hue, it was a bit too warm. This top dressing is actually a bit warmer than I was hoping. That pinkish colour, I'm not sure is really working for me, but you know what, for today's purposes, let's run with it. You can always top it up later on with something different. Cool plant, not fond of the top dressing. So I've gone back to the drawing board, got a bit of slate, a bit of pumice and a bit of calcium carbonate. I know, I like to overcomplicate stuff. I'm going to pound it now. I've wet everything because what I really don't want to do is inhale any fumes of little dust particles, not great for your lungs. So I'm going to beat this up, and hopefully the end result is going to be a top dressing fit for this plant. And if it isn't, I'm just going to give up for today. Here we go. Also well worth noting, different rocks are different hardnesses. I don't really know how they compare, and you can see evidence of that in the fact that I've broken my granite pestle. So just be aware of those things. But in this case, I'm using pumice and slate, and they're both pretty soft. Now, as you break it up, you're going to want to have different particle sizes because it creates a more naturalistic, realistic look, and it also kind of helps water disperse into the pot when you water it. So that's kind of the end goal. This is looking much better. Look at that. Crumbly, whitish grey. Probably should wear eye protection too now that I think about it. Okay. Okay, that's working a lot better. Just a kind of neutral grey. Now, a lot of the smallest particles will probably get washed into the sand, into the soil itself, but that's not a big problem. And there we have it. Finished product. Pretty happy with how it looks as well. What did I choose for the Don Ricardo pot? Ended up going for the Hagioserius versicolor, going for a bit of a Peruvian Andes habitat style approach. All these reds and yellows to kind of complement the earthy tones of the pot. And I'm sure you're wondering what went into the big white double-headed sculptural beast. Well, what did I show you? Went a long way out of my comfort zone with this. But look at that. Pair of Stenoserius Benekii. I thought that white Farina with the white pot, match made in heaven. Also helps that I got two of them. They're slightly different sizes as well, so I thought that lent itself beautifully to the asymmetry of the piece. Tell me what you reckon. Did I get any of the pots right? Did I get them wrong? Should I have chosen something else? Flick me a message in the comments. And buy a t-shirt too if you like, and subscribe. But that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe you learned something. I hope you can get out there and start potting up some plants in some really cool pots. Until next week, have a good one.